Who does this YouTuber think he is trying to tell me that I'm a narcissist? Of Two Minds. Hey everybody, welcome to Of Two Minds. Two quick things. The first, I am from the United States of America, so if you're from a different country or a different culture, the things that I say here, they may not apply the same for you. Number two, I am not a licensed professional. I can't help it if I'm popular. I work harder than everyone else. People should give me attention. Why doesn't my video have any likes? Oh, I hate my life! Here on Of Two Minds, we look at mental health and social situations, and today we're looking into, does attachment trauma result in narcissism? Before we do that though, do me a favor. When you have low self-esteem, do you go seeking attention from people? Leave that answer down in the comments below. Let's do a quick recap of what attachment trauma is. Attachment trauma is the result of when a parent or a caregiver has not met a child's physical or emotional needs early on in life. This is abusive towards the child because remember, a child cannot get the resources that they need in order to live except through their parents or their caregivers. So when they're denied these things that they need, or when they're given inconsistently, this is abusive, physically abusive, emotionally abusive, neglectful, whatever form it looks like, it's abuse. And because it's abusive, it results in trauma. Change your own diaper, I'm watching this. Now, your relationship with your parents is the first kind of close, intimate relationship you have with anybody, and so whatever that relationship looks like sort of becomes like the template for the way that you form intimate relationships in the future. Basically, the way that your parents bonded with you becomes the way that you generally bond with other people. When trauma has been involved, instead of forming a secure attachment, we generally form some type of insecure attachment. I can't deal with you and all your emotional crap right now. I have work to do. Okay, but that's in close relationships. What does this even have to do with narcissism, and what about outside of close relationships? So here's the thing. Attachment insecurity comes along with anxiety. And this anxiety, it doesn't just show up when we're in a relationship. It also might show up when we're dating, when we're interested in a relationship, or when we maybe have a crush on someone. It's been 3 days and he still hasn't messaged me. This is driving me crazy. So because we have trouble forming stable bonds with people and we generally feel insecure when we move closer into more intimate situations with people, that anxiety that bubbles up may stick with us, especially when we try to cope with it in ways that maybe aren't so effective. You seem a little on edge. You don't know what you're talking about. And one maladaptive way of dealing with anxiety is narcissism. Now, narcissism may show up in different ways depending on what your attachment style is. Remember that when we're talking about narcissism, there are two maladaptive personality traits that we typically use to try to cope with this anxiety. Those would be attention-seeking and grandiosity. Grandiosity being just trying to put ourselves above others. We're more important, our needs are more important, we deserve all the attention more than other people do. When we don't feel like we're getting enough attention from somebody in an intimate relationship, or maybe somebody that we're crushing on, that anxiety might start to bubble up because we have an anxious, preoccupied attachment style. And so to try to cope with that anxiety, what we might do is try to seek that attention somewhere else. Or instead, what we might do is we might feel like we need to quiet that anxiety down, and we might try to do that by making ourselves feel bigger and larger and more important than other people. Oh, you just haven't ascended to the level of spirituality that I have. You'll get there. But you don't even just have to take my word for this. In the research, there does seem to be some kind of connection between attachment trauma and narcissism, and I'll leave a link below on one paper I found interesting. When we feel insecure in romantic relationships, it's only natural to want to manage that anxiety we're feeling. We might try to cope by seeking attention because that's maybe what our parents weren't giving to us. Or we might try to inflate ourselves and make ourselves seem impenetrable and invulnerable, and we could never be harmed by other people because we're better than them. Because maybe behaving in that way is what got our parents to feel comfortable around us and start to meet our needs. Whatever the reason, attachment trauma is incredibly painful, and it happened at a time when our lives were on the line. That trauma and the anxiety that comes along with it can show up in many different ways in our life, and we may have different ways that we try to cope with it, including narcissism. If you find that you get into these intimate relationships and you keep running into this problem where you feel insecure and it never feels good, you may want to go in and sit down with a therapist who specializes in trauma. People with narcissistic tendencies, they also tend to have difficulty with self-esteem. I'm not a therapist, but I have some worksheets on self-esteem. If you want to check them out, go over to Patreon. On Patreon, I get to support people who do the work that they love, and I have patrons who help to support me in humanizing mental health and creating these videos. Thank you to my patrons. If you like learning about mental health and social situations, why not head over to youtube.com/RyanLiberty, hit subscribe. And remember to comment down below if you look for attention when you're feeling like you have low self-esteem. Thanks for joining me, everybody, here on Of Two Minds. Maybe if I comment, they'll like me.